And we're back. We have the one and only Dan John. Dan, thank you so much for coming on. I was telling you before the recording, I've been following your work since I was in high school. I think some of your books were the first things I was exposed to as a young male trying to learn about resistance training and exercise. And you were not a bad person at all to start learning from. 15 years later, I'm talking with you in real time. So this is exciting.
Well, that's great. Well,
Yeah,
yeah. I mean, I would have. So I would have. Are you in your mid-30s then?
I'm 30 or about to be 30. I'm 29. So I probably picked
Yeah,
up
I would have
some of
I
your
probably
first books
taught
when I
you
was
all.
15 or 16.
I would have taught you all 4 years of high school. Yeah. Okay. Oh, well, or whatever college. Actually, in your case, yeah, that's funny. That's great. Hey, I'm here to help, and thank you for saying that because I have a. I mean, I have a. I've been. I like to write. I like to lift weights. I like to write about lifting weights, and the field it's interesting. So let's get started. Yeah.
Yeah, for the select few people that don't know who you are, can you just give us a brief kind of intro on what you do, what you like to write about, and then we'll dive into it.
Yeah. So I started lifting weights in 1965 when my brother Ray had just gotten home from Vietnam War, and my aunt died, and they went. My brothers went to Sears and bought a Sears barbell set, and I still have the manual right behind me here. And I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with this concept of progressive resistance exercise. If you do something, you can get better at it, and there's no coach saying, you're our starter and you're our backup, I like that. And I just fell in love with it through high school. I read, I mean, those are up there, all my strength and health magazines from high school and college. And I was lucky that we had a magazine come out called Conditioning for a Purpose, I think it was called. And that's when I was introduced to Boyd Epley, the great Nebraska coach. And, he talked a lot about, if you play a game on your feet, you shouldn't lay on a bench. Or if and it really underscored what I was hearing from the track and field people. So I was lucky because I very much been always kind of a, Olympic lift, power lifts, kettlebells, machine training, everything works. I mean, every single tool you have in your toolkit works. Some work better than others for the task at hand. And so I've always been kind of a task at hand guy. My senior year at the Utah State University, famously, Coach Mon, we're only a couple of weeks left in the season, and Coach Mon called me in the office, and of course, all of my teammates were like, "Whoa, what'd you do, man?" And he asked me to come back, and bodybuilding was taking over track and field, and me to get. So I was his strength coach starting in 1979. I was a strength coach at Utah State for 3 years. And I might have been one of the, if not the first, one of the handful of first track and field strength coaches. I'm sure that there were a few football strength coaches. Most famously, the first probably was Father Judge, literally Father Judge at Notre Dame. And I've been around ever since. I've coached national champions and All-Americans and Olympians and NFL players and people who are, but my favorite clients, as you probably know, are the people who, our impact, changes lives. I know of at least a few cases in my career. I really feel like I saved a person's life from a bad other set of decisions. So there you go. And then famously, I wrote articles on King Arthur, The Sword and the Stone, Beowulf, religious studies, religious education. And I made a grand total of zero money. And then T Nation reached out to me for an article one time, and I wrote an article for them. And I made more money than I made as a teacher in a month. So I said, Tiffany of blessed memory said, quit writing all this free stuff, start writing lifting. So, and you'll notice when I write articles, very often they're very balanced, very moderate, usually have some philosophy or some other thing in them, and generally end up being, be a better person. So that's kind of my niche in the fitness industry. I don't like to attack other people. I have a few times that has always gotten spilled over on the wrong side. Sometimes they deserve it, but it's just not worth your time, especially now in this divisive life we live. So, yeah, good enough.
That was great. Yeah, the old T Nation articles, I mean, I felt like I was at a prime time finding those as well,
Yeah.
people like yourself writing them. And I don't know where T Nation is at nowadays, if they even have articles, but 10, 15 plus years ago, it was an awesome place to learn. Did you start writing those articles before publishing books, or you had multiple publications?
Okay, that's it. Okay, quick side story. I was doing DVDs because I was getting emails from people online to help them with the Olympic lifts, with the loaded carries and then with overhead work. So I did a series of 3 DVDs on that. And this person was selling them for me. But in fact, it's funny because it was 20 years ago. Greg Glassman at CrossFit got really angry with me because, because of his, I honestly had nothing to do with it, but whatever. And so the person who was selling them kind of dumped me overnight. And Laree Draper, Dave Draper, Mr. Universe's wife, said, "Hey man, we would love to cover your stuff." About 4 or 5 months later, she said, "You've got a ton of articles. Do you want to compile them into a book?" And I was like, "Gosh, jeepers," and we thought it would sell it's called a vanity press. I think it's like I think she said 432 copies. I don't remember why it was that number. It sticks in my head, but it might've been in the 400s. And the first weekend it sold 17,000. So maybe there was an interest. It's now translated into 14 languages. And I even get artwork based on that piece of artwork is based on the cover. And so for those of you who who aren't into publishing, if you sell 10,000 copies, you're in the top 5% of authors of all time. If you sell 20, you're in the top 3. So I've had 3 books that have 4 books that have sold over that number by a lot. And it's kind of fun. I sit back and it's like, well, we do this. I have this inner circle, and then I have this financial intentional community we get. And one of our assignments is to do this buckets list. So Chris, from age 1 through 15, I've already told you 1 or 2 of the events, but let me share it with you. So my brother came home from Vietnam War. Gary's going to go next. We bought a Sears barbell. A couple years later, I transferred from St. Veronica's to Southwood Junior High, where I learned the Southwood lifting program, which I still use. And I had to take an elective. So two electives, and I didn't know what to do. So I'm very happy with these. I took general business, which is interesting because my academic degrees aren't business. And I took typing. And who'd have known at 9th grade, I was going to make my living typing about weightlifting. And so one of the cool things about that story I just told you is that, the roots are there and in your youth. And if you're lucky and kind of lucky like I am, you can kind of bump into success in life by just, taking care of business when you need to. So and the final thing on T Nation, they changed a whole bunch of things, and they started moving over that breaking muscle style of 7 ways to terrorize your triceps and stuff. And those just aren't articles that's not me. And literally you could take a first year bad personal trainer and write those articles, 6 ways to, blitz your biceps, it's just, but I don't like that. I like more narrative articles that you'll come back to and go, boy, I missed this, versus, I'm doing concentration curls, you don't really miss much the second time. You didn't really miss much if you have to read it twice,
You just brought it up, and I wanted to touch on it at some point because it was in your most recent book, The Art of Coaching, the financial intentional community. I would love to just hear what that consists of, and what got you involved with that, and what does that look like?
So I'm a big believer in what we call intentional community. So I have very little I work out every single day of the week. And Chris, you're probably not lifting. I lift 3 days a week. I walk 10,000 steps 7 days a week. I do mobility, 1 hour session every week. And then, small, and in doses. Okay. And you're probably thinking, by God, what a hero he is. I mean, you're probably sitting here just wanting to stand up and salute me and bow and whatever. Well, the reason I work out is that people from all over the community, all over the world, come to my house to train with me at 9:30 in the morning. So literally, I'll look out my door and cars will start pulling up to my house. That's what an intentional community is. I have the knowledge and the equipment. They have all the energy and free will. So, let's be honest, I'm 68 years old. There are times, man, I don't want to work out. Let's see, how often is that? Well, this morning was a good example. Wednesday was a good example. Monday was a really good example. It's cold in my gym, because it's a garage. But damn it, there are people there. And so we work out together. So an intentional community is we get together. Okay, no shock there. Intentionally. Again, no shock. The financial one we came up with 2 years ago. I joined a program and I really did enjoy it. And we started talking about things, and our gym group started talking about money and finances. And then we said, why don't we get together one day a week and talk about things? Well, so I'm the oldest at 68, but we have he's 21 now, but we had a 19-year-old when we started, and we have people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and, two of us in our 60s. And the most important thing about all intentional communities is accountability buddies. If I say I'm going to start an investment, after the 6th week, I say I'm going to start an investment. After a while, we just say, hey, you're full of it. You're not going to do it. For me, the best thing is, I use the Rocket app, and I have almost no subscriptions. I'm debt free. I have a massive emergency fund. I mean, my emergency fund will keep me happy. I have statistically, as a male in America, I have 10 more years. I'm good. Okay. I am good if I just die. In fact, I wish I knew when I would die, because I would just spend that stuff, instead of having a trust fund for my daughters and all that, and my grandkids. I just wish I knew when I was going to die. So for me, it's pretty simple, but I think my job now is to role model good decisions. Okay. But at the same time, we'll be talking about something. And if you don't, really, Chris, this is an important thing. The truths that are in finances are the truths that are in the physical side. My first day, I was with Coach Ralph Mon, my coach at Utah State. The reason I live in Utah, actually. And he said two things the first meeting. He said, little and often over the long haul, and make yourself a slave to good habits. I was asked a couple of years ago to keynote or whatever we call it, the graduation speech at a local high school. And the principal said, well, what do you want to tell him? I said, oh, that's easy. What I want to tell him is, don't get fat, don't get debt. But we would get you would get killed by complaints by parents. But the truth is, if you can make it to your mid 30s without getting fat, without debt, you're going to be okay, man. Life's going to be pretty good. So the financial inner circle basically reflects what I know about strength training, track and field, American football, all the coaches, all the sports I've coached, finance, relationships. Make yourself a slave to good habits in a relationship. Never go to bed angry. Make sure as a man, I stand up when a girlfriend comes in a room. I tend to stand up when anyone comes into a room. The same lessons you learn in any aspect of life is true in any other aspect of life. So you could sit in our financial inner circle, inner intentional community, and just take something we say and then say, oh, that's the concept of enough. What's enough? So if you're an elite discus thrower, enough, according to the research, is a 400-pound bench. That's not very much. 250 snatch, 300 clean, 450 squat. Now, if you do those 4 lifts, but you're not throwing international distances, the problem's not in the weight room. You're strong enough. The problem's out on the field of play. Does that make sense? If you're making $6.9 million a year, that's a lot of money. But if you're spending $18.9 million a year, the rules are all the same. In fact, I think it's a lot easier. I think it's a lot easier to earn more money and to lift more weights than it is to have beautiful technique in your sport or to adjust your spending to an appropriate level. Does that make sense to you? So that's why the financial intentional community does so well with the physical ones and any other aspect of my life. Yeah.
Is the intentional community also meeting in the garage gym?
No, those bunch of pansies. I got a downstairs living room that's got a massive round table in it. It's very comfortable. We meet in there. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And we have a really interesting group. We got some married couples. We got some, just a real interesting mix. And now we have people who come in on Zoom.
Are there structured topics for each time y'all get together, or is it just people's questions, thoughts? How does that flow?
We start like this, everyone's going to go around the corner circle. We'll go, I'm Dan, I'm 68. And I'll tell you what I'm going to tell them tomorrow. It's tomorrow. So I don't know when this is going to publish, but we do it on Saturdays. This week I went to my accountant and we took care of all my corporate stuff. All my taxes are my taxes are done. My taxes for the last year are already done, and it's I don't know when this is going to broadcast, but what is it? Almost 2 months early, right? And so I'm going to talk about how I started working on my taxes in November, December, and so then I'll go on, and then we tend to read the same books together. Morgan Heisel's The Psychology of Money is a good one. A guy named Ramit has a really good book on, I think it's called I Can Make You Rich. We've done Nick Peterson's Bumpers. The Richest Man in Babylon, which is it's from the 1920s or 30s. That was really a good one. There's the funny thing about money and health. The rules haven't changed. In 100 years, humans haven't changed that much. I got a couple of books over there on dieting from 100 years, 1915. So 111 years ago. And basically, Lulu Hunt, she's the most famous of the books. She tells you just drink hot coffee and a glass of hot lemon juice until lunch. She's intermittent fasting 111 years ago. Of course, hypocrisy is recommended it also. So there's nothing new under the sun. So a book like The Richest Man in Babylon, I think the guy's name was George Clayson, still a fun read. You can get it. I think the audio book is free. I know I got mine from whatever the library app is, Libby. And I did a couple of walks listening to it. And it's just delightful. So we use books. Tomorrow, we're basically talking about the concept of shark habits. And I'm great on shark habits. No, tomorrow's pirate maps. And I'm very good at pirate maps. So, but it'll be good because this is what I say I'm going to do. Am I doing it? And let's be honest, if you ever have a body composition client, they always come in, I barely ate. And then you look at the food journal, it's like, well, Dan John, is a 200-pound, 68-year-old, and he eats 2,500 calories a day. You're eating 4,500 calories a day. You realize that extra 2,000 calories is going to add up over time, right? Yeah. Everything's simple. Yeah. All truth is simple.
The shark habits and the pirate maps that you just touched on is also in your new book. Can you discuss what those two are, what they look like?
So shark habits is a phrase I got from Rob Wolf, and this has to go back. We were working with the special forces when I heard that. I was like, it's brilliant. It means one bite and it's gone. So, well, did you notice when you asked me about speaking, what did I say? You sent an email, right?
Yep.
And what happened?
You responded very quickly.
And I said, yes.
Yeah.
I said, yes. That's a shark habit. Now, this isn't completely true anymore because I've changed up a little bit, but I tend to wear black shirts. I don't even, and so I have Eddie Bauer pants on. I have 5 different colors. They all match the shirts. So I wear Witten, Whitin shoes. I have 6 pairs of the same exact shoe. Okay. I use them for training in life. I got 5 pairs of the 5 different colors of Eddie Bauer pants. I got a bunch of shirts that look like this. Dude, I don't think at all. Now, tonight I'll be in a suit. I have tux. I have some lovely clothes and I really work very hard on it. But when it comes to day to day, I don't think about my wardrobe at all. Boom. So you ask me a question, it's yes or no. Hard in relationships, by the way. So Dan, do you want to go to this party? Yes. Well, it'd be nice if we went because, we haven't seen Edna and Bruce in a long time. I said yes. Well, I know you said yes, but so why are you convincing me? I said, so that can be a problem. So a shark habit, one bite and it's gone. Every aspect of my life, if it's a wedding, it's funny. Got a wedding invitation for Crete this June and, near island off of Greece. And boom, yes, I'll go. Little issues with flights and hotels and language and all that. But yes, and I'm on my way. The bride isn't freaking out about whether I'll be there. She knows I'm on my way. I also buy the presents when I get an invite to a wedding, instantly buy the wedding present for them. If there's a hotel, I get it. If you call in early, you get the hotel where everything happens. You don't have to drive back and forth. Some crappy Motel 6 next to an airport, that rents by the hour with a gap this big and the rats are running in and out all night. Shouldn't have said Motel 6. I should really watch what I say in these things. But you know, that's what a shark habit is. Okay. And I try to base any decision that's a light switch, on, off, yes, no, shark habit it. Just shark habit. Get it out of your head. Yeah.
Is it, you used a few examples of easy yeses. Is it as easy for you to say no to things?
Um, Now I've had to take a class on that. I'm currently taking 2 classes. This is funny because when you look at me right now, you'll laugh, but I'm taking one on style because I don't, you know, as a school teacher, I had a look. It was a coat, tie, button down shirt, generally khaki-ish pants, whether they were slacks or whatever. And that was fine. When I was a coach, it was, generally sweatshirts, athletic pants, cleats during football season, and just normal shoes during track season. When I go to church on Sunday, I wear church dress. Okay, great. Well, now I'm at that transition part of my life where I don't want to dress. I don't want to dress like, I look at the teenagers, they all wear, literally, I saw a kid the other day at the mall wearing pajamas, and I thought, I'm not wearing pajamas in public. And very often they'll wear shirts with massive logos on them. I'm not going to wear a logo from a team. I'm not going to wear whatever the company is, doesn't need my advertising. So I won't wear it. So the other course I'm taking is on how to be a gentleman. And I'm actually literally practicing how to say no because I'm not very good at it. No.
Can you talk more about that? How do you improve that ability to say no?
Well, I'm not through the course yet, Chris. I mean, I'm still working. I'm not going to tell you. Okay. No, you wouldn't say it like that. First off, okay. For example, there's a concept called ghosting. Now, I've seen it in my life. Okay. And I've actually had to ghost a few people in my life, and I don't like it. Ghosting is not something a gentleman should do. I should have, well, in some cases I have. I reach out to you, Chris, and say, these last few emails you sent me are really outside. I felt that they're inappropriate and you keep doing it. So I'm going to block your email and I will not respond to any more correspondence. That's how a gentleman would ghost somebody. Okay. The most important thing, ask me to explain how to say no more. Okay.
Can you explain no more?
No, but thank you for, yeah. So the most important thing is, and it comes out of Revelation 3:15, let your yes be yes and your no be no. You are lukewarm and I shall spit you out. So either say yes or no, but nothing worse is when someone says yes to something and then you freaking drag, do you want to go to Disneyland? Yeah. And then the whole time they're going, it's so expensive here. Oh my God, the lines are long. Whatever the example would be, but everyone wants to do this but learn to say no. And that's how I've also done that too. We all agree to do this. And then right before someone says they don't like to do this, we're going to go do this instead. I still do the thing we agreed on because maybe, like there are some bars here in Salt Lake City. I don't mind going to, but a lot of them suck. I mean, I don't want to be there, So I'm not going to go to a bar that sucks, that I don't like, and spend my time, talent, and treasures on a place I don't want to be at. Hard life lesson.
The shark habit, yes or no. What about the pirate map?
Pirate map. Now that comes from Pat Flynn. So a pirate map is not a long, exaggerated, Waze, WAZE explanation. Okay. If you've ever used Waze, you can pop it up and see the whole route and there's all these lefts and rights. A pirate map's different. It says, go to St. John's Island, find the white coconut tree, take 7 paces to the west, dig down. So my daily pirate map is on the back of my computer, but it's also on the back of my journal here. So this is my daily pirate map. The goal of this pirate map. So I have a granddaughter named Daisy. She's 10 months. I have a granddaughter named Elowen. She's 18. I have a granddaughter named Josephine, who's 11. Now, the original goal was to dance at Josephine's wedding. We're looking 10, 15 years down the road. I think I can make that. But these little ones, so I have to really up my game now, So before I go to bed, coffee for the morning ready. Take Hibernate. It's just this Hibernate is this. I'm not selling it, but I use it. Make my to-do list for tomorrow. Okay. So that's number one. Number two, lift 3 days a week with original strength between sets. So after I press, I do neck nods. After I pull, I do rotation work. Okay. And more. Walk 10,000 steps a day. Already have it. And then this next one, keep pedometer in the pocket, and there it is. And it's already at 10,000 steps. Number three, I take supplements in the morning, like morning sups. That is sugar-free, orange flavored Metamucil and creatine. 2 basic meals a day, lots of fruits and vegetables. Number four, keep tracks of measurements, lifts, and photos. Every Saturday, I do my measurements. I write down, well, obviously, my lifts in my journal. My journal every day, I write down my lift. But I do take a weekly photo. I tell you one thing, I'm pale. I am February in Utah pale, baby. Oh, God, this last picture, good thing we didn't use a flash. It had just disappeared, you know. And then number five is our family mission statement, make a difference. Every day I try to make someone's life a little better.
Is that something that has been challenging for you to stick with those? Or is it essentially once it's written out, I know I can be consistent because I'm checking it every day?
It's a good question. Two things. First, I have bad days. You know, in the last couple of weeks, I lost Dick Notmeyer, my coach. You know, he died in his mid-90s. Monsignor Fitzgerald, one of my great mentors, died. My sister is not doing well as we speak right now. Hopefully the best for her. I have bad days, but if I do those things, if I do what I'm supposed to do, I get my exercise in, I eat the way I'm supposed to eat, and I try to help somebody else, the worst day I have, I'm still, you know, maybe it's not 20 miles, but it might be 20 steps forward. You know what I mean? So for me, the pirate map is like the at least. And it's kind of fun. You know, after we hang up, I'll go upstairs and I'm going to, so there's a series of books called the Thursday Murder Club. Thursday? Yeah. And it's by a guy named Osmond. They're very fun, cozy murders. Okay. After we talk, I'm going to sit down for about 15, 20 minutes and read. Well, if I read a cozy mystery, have a great conversation with you, I already got my workout in. You could probably tell I did presses today. It's really hard to get my shoulders. I have to kind of move to make sure my shoulders are in the picture. You know, I got my chin ups in today, you know. If I get my workout in, I already got my 10,000 steps. I get my meals in, eat a lot of fruit, eat a lot of protein, and maybe make someone's day better. I gave a thank you card yesterday to this woman who was really helpful for me about 4 years ago. And it was just a little card. You know, I think it's real. I always keep boxes of cards with me, and I try to write to people who mean a lot to me. And I made her, according to her, I made her year as just a little thank you. Sometimes make a difference is to write a thank you card to somebody. Sometimes make a difference is to donate a lot of money to a foundation. Sometimes make a difference, in my case, is not killing someone. So that's kind of a good thing. Yeah. Yeah. Try that. My lawyer said no more attempted murders. Either do the job or stop. So I said, okay, you know, whatever. All right.
The speaking, which obviously you're doing now on podcasts, you given courses and lectures in person, or some of those DVDs you've done a long time ago. Do you prefer speaking and talking to audiences and groups in real time, or do you prefer writing more? Do you find value and enjoy equally?
So I hope we have a chance to be at a workshop together, because you're going to walk up and say, "You're ready for this," and I will say, "Chris, I am nervous as hell," and you'll say, "You're still nervous after all these years?" And I'll say, "The day I stop being nervous is the day I stop doing workshops." So I like workshops. The problem is, you know, I'm a dinosaur. You know, it's real. I mean, I don't, you know, my daughters, you know, it's like, Dad. So I'm not a sexist, and I'm not a homophobe, and I'm not a racist, and all those. I'm not an anti-Semite. I'm not any of those things, but I am an old white guy who's a big engine. And sometimes I don't even know I'm saying it. And they say I say things that hurt someone's feelings. It's like, what did I say? Well, when the guy said he benched 200 and you laughed out loud at him. Well, I meant laughter in a good way. I told my daughters that if they ever had a guy brag to them they had a 200-pound bench, their job is to lean in and say, "Oh God, I'm so sorry. Is everything okay?" So, okay, that was mean. See, I say things like that, Chris. So my workshops, I still try my best, but I still say stupid stuff. Writing is a lot of hard work. And I don't think people realize it, but I write every single day in the same way I drink. I mean, I what is it, about 150 to 160 grams of protein a day, and I write every day. It's just, to me, it's just what try to sleep 8 hours every night. It's just what you do. It makes sense. So for me, writing is more along the lines of the exploration of the topic, the brainstorming, the organizing things. Yeah. One thing I would recommend for anyone interested in writing. Okay, first off, writers write, throwers throw, jumpers jump. Okay, you got to write, but don't start with the beginning and don't finish at the end. I mean, if you want to write, just find easy topics that are going to be part of this thing you're putting together, and do the easy. Get rid of all the low hanging fruit as soon as you can. You know, I break things up a lot. I haven't done it in a while, but you break it up into 3 parts or 5 parts, and then you break those 3 or 5 into 3 or 5 parts. And then, so if you do that, you got 25 sections in this book. Just, got 25 chapters in the book. This would be a perfect world. Intro, conclusion, and all the rest. Just find the one you look at and go, oh yeah, I know that, and just zip through that one. That'll help you if you're gonna write. Okay.
Since you started writing and maybe publishing your first book till now, what has evolved the most with how you write and what you write about?
Yeah. Larry Draper, my first publisher, constantly says, you got to write do this books. And I hate writing do this books. I hate it. I just loathe it because, okay. So I have a book called Mass Made Simple. It is the classic do this. This is it. It's 6 weeks. Do this. And I'll get questions about, I don't want to bench press. Can I do the program with, some, I don't know, curls? Yeah, sure. Fine. Whatever. It's hard for me because people always push back from do this. My armor building formula, my armor building formula 2, or more do this kind of books. And I know that this is going to sound weird, but I know that the market will reward me more with do this books. But I don't think it's fair to you as, Chris, in your world and your people. To me, I'd much rather write books that a little bit more global, that say, here's some good ideas. But the most important thing is assessment after. You train for 2 weeks, and then you sit down and you fold your arms, and you kind of both nod each other's heads, and you got a cup of coffee, and you say, so what do you think? And if the person says, I don't see how in the hell you expect me to do that for 6 more weeks, good feedback. If they say this is too easy, I need to do more front squats, a phrase no one's ever said, then I say, good. So that's the keys for me. To me, it's the dialogue and discussion, big picture of things. Okay. Yeah. For me anyway, for books. Yeah.
Which book have you felt the most value from, either enjoyment in the writing process or after the fact, looking back at it, I'm the most proud of this book?
Yeah. It's a newer one. It's Easy Strength Omnibook. Yeah. I just feel like with Easy Strength Omnibook, I share with you literally just about, I mean, at least, I've been lifting weights, what is this, 61 years now. I share at least 61 years of workouts with you, but I also synthesize it down. Now, the problem with the book, the second I write, do this, somebody raises, I've got Easy Strength for Olympic lifting. I think I have 3 or 4 different programs, because no matter what I say, somebody says they can't do this. And then instead of just saying, well, blah, 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 you should do this anyway, I weaken myself and I do what they ask. Yeah.
Yeah, that is.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, it is challenging for our audience for E3. We come out with a lot of YouTube videos and articles and even podcasts trying to give to the masses valuable information about a topic or an injury, but you can only provide so many caveats and tailor it so much to each person. So I'm sure you just experience that constantly, of those questions that you're alluding to, or the pushback, or these minutia that really is hard to tailor to every single person, because you're talking and speaking and writing to so many different people.
Like when I have an Olympic lifting program, and the person asks me, how can you do without an Olympic bar? Well, I want to be a discus thrower, but there's no fields or I don't have a disc. What should I do? Well, like actually, I could actually help you there. It's just that hard. I mean, I'll have people who want to take kettlebell programs and turn them into barbell programs, like a density program where the armor building formula, the ABC is a density program. The 10,000 swing challenge kettlebell program. The idea is maybe day one takes 52, you know, by the end of the 20 days, you do it in 34. Something good has happened because you're doing 500 swings a day. So can I do the 10,000 kettlebell swing challenge with a broomstick? Well, yeah, I guess you could. You'd look like a lunatic, but go ahead,
What
So,
I have valued so much about your writing and now reading it over the past 10 or 15 years is I don't know how many books of yours I've read at this point, maybe 8 to 10. And the messaging is quite consistent across all of these books, across multiple decades. And maybe for some people, they feel like you're not coming up with any quote unquote new ideas or new information. But I think that's what's been the most valuable of returning back to the most valuable, somewhat simple foundational things is the most important and valuable. And reiterating that across your writing, I think is why I gravitate towards your writing so much. Can you touch on some of those big things? Obviously, like in your most recent book, The Art of Coaching, maybe there's some new concepts or different ways you've written it, but a lot of those concepts, I remember reading those things when I was in high school, and that's what's been valuable because you circle back to it. Can you touch on some of those really big, valuable things?
sure. First off, my most recent book is Armor Building Formula 2, because I had so many questions that I finally decided just make another book. I can't keep answering the same questions. So, but by the way, and the Art of Coaching actually is a workshop. It's a workshop, and I decided a couple of years ago I have a new one coming out called Tools of Coaching. It's a workshop, the ABCs and Fs of coaching, of weightlifting. It was a workshop, and I decided that I'm going to start publishing my work. So I don't my PowerPoint or my notes or whatever. I take that and then I just expand it out, So well, do you mind? Let's do this into a bit of a dialogue, Chris. Tell me what you think my essential principles that seem all the time. Just help me out here. Let me
Yeah,
hear what.
I would say my biggest takeaways over the course of the years I've read your work, it's a few things. One, the value of consistency and the value of building habits that go across weeks, months, years, and decades. The value of kind of these big primary movement patterns that can be loaded and progressed over time and can be scalable. The value of community and social engagement and building, like what you're talking about, this sense of one, consistency, and the community aspect of engaging in fitness or health or all these other, the financial things you talked about. The value of looking at the basics as the most important things and not getting lost in the minutia or the fads. I would say kind of at a first glance, those are the big things that have stood and stay with me.
Yeah, let's just review. I mean, I like it very much what you said. I have some mental principles, like the biggest, what's enough? I mean, what's enough income? What's enough money? What's enough load on the bar? What's enough reps? What's enough, and until you make that decision, and that ties us right into standards. Okay. I mean, if you're strong enough to do the job, but you're not doing the job, well, the problem isn't with me in the weight room. Okay. So that the enough thing is a big one. Enough. And one of the things that's helped me so much in the last few years with my body composition is, once I dialed in how many calories I need, I have a coach who helped me with that. And then the protein was so much less than I was used to eating. And by eating less protein, it saved calories for some real fun things. Okay. But I had to know what enough was. And for me, enough, right at, we're thinking about lowering it to 2,400 calories a day, but right now I'm at 2,500 with about 150 grams of protein a day. Okay. So good. From there, we talked about standards. And, I have standards for, high school athletics, boys and girls standards. And one of the things is, when a parent says, why isn't Billy playing? And I say, well, we have 62 varsity athletes that are all at this standard. And Billy doesn't lift weights with the team, because you hired a personal trainer. He does tricep extensions, but he can't bench 135. He does leg extensions, but he can't front squat 205. He does lat pulls, but he can't clean 165 or whatever the standard is. I expect 205, but whatever. So, and then once you get to standards, then it leads in. Okay, this is in my head, by the way. This is a matrix. Okay, this all just ties in together. The next thing from there, where are you not up to standard? And that is your gaps. And for most of my career, I could say two things were gaps: authentic squats and loaded carries. And I made a living for a long time going to programs and teaching them the goblet squat and the loaded carry family. And I'd get, call back 2 weeks later. They can't believe the progress across the line. It's because there was gaps. With the football team, I teach tumbling, because if you knock me down and get back up, even though the X's and O's said that I was out of the play, I'm back in. And you can't chart that. So tumbling teaches you, it's injury prevent. So for me, tumbling is injury prevention, because instead of trying to stop the ground with your pinky, you roll or something like that. And then second, it gets you back in the plays. And third, it probably teaches some kind of, thing that makes you a better overall athlete, proprioception. So when I go to a school and they ask me for help, very often, almost universally, they just have standards that they stole from another school, but that don't fit. For example, in American football, don't fit the offense they run. If you're a team that runs the veer, you want all your linemen to wrestle in the offseason, because the veer is it's an ankle biting block. I mean, my buddy Casey just got a real big job, by the way. He's my former assistant, just got really big job. I'm very proud of him. But he was talking about going against the Air Force Academy. He was a Division I defensive lineman. He said the worst everybody felt after a game was Air Force Academy, because those guys would just cut you, and they were on their hands and knees, and they never quit. If you're running an offense like the system, or where you literally pass the ball all 4 downs, even 4th down, you're throwing the ball, you want to teach your offensive linemen, they just got to be desks. You're going to train them to be desks that can walk backwards. Okay. You want these guys to have, reach and hit the wall, reach and hit that wall, desks. So schools will have a training program that doesn't reflect the systems they're training with. You follow? So as a throws coach, jumps coach, one of the things, when you see my throwers train, honestly, you could probably be an outstanding thrower just doing snatches and front squats. What was his name? The Iron Samurais program. He did intermittent fasting and just front squat and squat snatch. Okay. You could probably be a good thrower. I would throw in suitcase carries too. But what you've done there is you've said, okay, this is what we're going to do. Now, you then go to another school that doesn't use the style of discus technique I use. They use a much style. Maybe you do need to bench press and incline press and back squat, but it depends. So you always need to line things up with what the system you're trying to use, And so as a strength coach and as a technique coach, I'm constantly trying to remind myself that the programs fit our philosophy. Our programs fit our overriding philosophy. And so once you deal with those gaps, and by the way, the tumbling is a great thing for a veer team to use, any kind of option run team, because they're on the ground a lot. Your offensive linemen are on the ground a lot, and your running backs are getting hit all the time. And that's where the armor building formula came from. But yeah, so from there, then you sit back, you fold your arms and say, okay, how are we going to teach this? And ideally, it's over a 4-year program. Your freshmen might just do rudimentary power cleans, hang power cleans, but your seniors are squat snatching. But it takes you those years to teach it. But at the same time, the freshmen are watching the varsity athletes doing that exercise, knowing that they're going to progress. If you think the bench press is important, you put chains on the bench press, maybe you do board bench presses sometimes, whatever it takes, but you have a progression over time to adapt to it. At the same time, it has to hit the overwhelming philosophy of the program.
Another big Dan John takeaway I've had over a long time is keep the goal the goal. And you always reiterate that. Can you Elaborate on what that means.
Yeah, it originally came from the mission is to keep the mission the mission. And it's a military use, but it's also in the church world. You know, the mission is to keep the mission the mission. What are we here for? Well, if we're here for this, let's do this. You know, if you sit down with any military branch, they will be able to tell you what their overriding mission is. Problem is, literally, politics gets in the way. And then, you know, you want to have photo ops of American Marines, teaching daycare. Well, that's not their mission. The mission is keep the mission the mission. And that morphed over, pardon me, into the goal is to keep the goal the goal. So you see it all the time with body composition programs. You know, you got, and famously would be CrossFit. I mean, the number of people I know, in fact, I was just at a party not long ago with a woman who was doing CrossFit. And she did. She goes, I was in great shape. I go, well, why just stop? She goes, you know, she has severe shoulder problems and her back hurts constantly because of the style of coaching she got. Well, she went in to lose some body fat and she got jacked up literally now for the rest of her life. The goal is to keep the goal the goal. If, you know, for her, I would have put her on, you know, lift 3 days, well, calories, you know, probably lift 3 days a week and then walk after every lifting session. And with a woman, if you can get a woman to watch their watch calories and lift weights, all your dreams come true. It's pretty easy to work with. The goal, body composition, is to keep the goal, body composition, the goal. I'm not going to teach a body comp client how to snatch and clean and jerk, but I'm going to teach a discus thrower to do that. Dan, why do you have two different programs? I don't. The goal is keep the goal the goal. And that's, if any time in life I see things falling apart, very often we didn't sit around with our arms folded and saying, what are we here for? What's the goal here? What are we trying to do this for? Good schools tend to have a nice mission statement. One I'm thinking about is Sarah High School in San Mateo, California. That's where Tom Brady went to school. That's where Barry Bonds went to school. That's where Lynn Swan went to school. I mean, it's, my friend John is in their Hall of Fame. And that Hall of Fame is a freaking Hall of Fame. You know, I just named two NFL Hall of, I mean, if Tom Brady doesn't get in the Hall of Fame, I'm never going to watch an NFL game again. And they have a statement. And I was walking to a game one time. They were playing a very famous other high school. And I was talking to the boys as we're walking in. Tiffany of blessed memory was with me. And I just said, hey guys, what is the mission of Sarah High? And I got to tell you, this one young man went, it has developed men of faith, courage. And he just went down this list of what the mission was of the school. I don't have it exactly because I didn't have to memorize it, but that's when you know you have a mission statement that sticks. So the joke mission statement I've always used with my throwers is throw far or die. And everyone always laughs, but when you've been taking it, if you take that serious, it's what we do. So what is the mission of a throws coach is to teach his athletes to throw far. High jump coach, jump high. Long jump, I don't want to throw you off, Chris. Jump long. Okay. And that's your job. And I don't care how my throwers look in a bikini or a thong. I don't care. Generally though, they're at least the level I coach at, they're in pretty good shape. I do care about their grades because academics comes first, but I don't want to hear all this extra stuff. If we're only doing 2 lifts 3 days a week and they're throwing far, get away from me. I'm right, you're wrong. Okay.
It seems harder and harder for general population or athletes or just clients in general that you can be consulting with as a coach or as a rehab provider, where there's just an abundance of information that they're consuming on social media or that they're asking on ChatGPT or they're Googling, and trying to orient that, keep the goal and funnel the most valuable things and the priorities amidst the barrage of chaos is quite challenging. I'm sure you've become probably more and more frustrated with that over the years as there's just been more things that people you communicate with are consuming. And I don't know how this will get any better, but do you have any general reflections on 2026, the chaos that is information about fitness and health compared to decades ago?
I was asked by the guy who runs the back my company, not to talk about this certain person who was all over the Epstein's files. And I just want to swallow my tongue because he is part of the big problem. All these longevity experts are, I just want to throttle them. Okay. My favorite longevity book is Spring Chicken by Bill Gifford, who is a come and train in my gym. Good man. And at the end, it's just basic stuff. I spend every Thursday night, I'm at the senior center. One of my best friends is Merrill. He's 94 years old. He was an eyewitness to the first atomic bomb blast and flew 88 fighter missions over North Vietnam. When I talk to him about longevity, it's a different story. It's not about, no one at the senior center dance on Thursday nights has a VO2 max better than me. But a lot of them are going to live a lot longer than I have. Okay? There's no magic supplements, maybe glucophage, metformin, that seems to be pretty good. But the rest, Dick Nottmeyer told me years ago, 50% genetics, you can't overcome it. We now know it's more like 55. So Dick, of blessed memory, was wrong. 10% is luck. My brothers were in Vietnam. They were in wars. My family's in wars. My niece is getting sent over again. To a war zone, My brothers are alive partially because of luck. And luck is a major factor in everything you do. And the other, well, now it's 35%, is lifestyle. And if you keep your body weight under 300 pounds, you don't smoke, you wear your seatbelt, you wear your helmet, those are the best things you can possibly do for longevity. You don't need to be like that other Utah, that crazy guy down in south of me, spending $2 million a year, getting his own son's blood put into him. Come on, man. You don't need any of that stuff. We do know this. Eat inside your calories, probably fasting probably does help for longevity. And we'll know more about that as the years go on. Fast mimicking diet, Walter Longo, I think supports that pretty well. Exercise somehow. But like my friend Maureen at the senior center always tells me, from her experience working at the senior center a long time, it's mobility and community. And mobility in the sense of not our mobility, but move and be in community. Pardon me. I'm in the Murray Senior Center walking club, very proud of it. And we all got our little green beanies and we're doing this 3-month walk. I'm averaging. I haven't yet missed 10,000 steps a day, which for me is about 5 miles. I'm getting up as high as 15 to 20 a day. And some days I do it with other people, most days. Today I did one walk with somebody else and another walk by myself. But every time I walk out that door and I go for longer than 10 minutes, I'm doing about as much as I can do for my longevity. But Chris and gentle listeners, I'm telling you to sleep more. I'm telling you to walk more, drink more water, eat more fruit, eat more protein. And I do think resistance training helps. You can't sell any of that. I can't make a nick. This Brian Johnson guy, the Utah guy, I don't know if remember if he's still Mormon or not. I don't care. I'm not, but I don't care. But now when I go on my Facebook, there's all these ads for his magic collagen and his magic protein. Well, of course he's selling supplements because that's how you make money in this industry. And there are supplements that work. I listened to Nicholas. He's over on the Physionics. I cannot recommend that site enough. He's got this great little video called The Most Important Supplement, moisturizer with sunscreen in it. Moisture is the most important supplement you can use statistically. I love it. So I've been doing this for years because my skin doctor, but every day I start my day with oil of Olay complete, and I put it on. And I even have stuff on my hair now. I have a sunscreen. It's better now, but I used to get these terrible, I'm a track guy. I should have warned the ladies about that gun show right there. But back here, it's getting better by the day. I don't know. I'm hoping it's the stuff, but it's a hair conditioner with sunscreen in it. So it'll stop yourself from getting, burned but as a track coach, in fact, I lost a friend to skin cancer who was a track coach also. And it's worse than you think. I'm telling you to put on oil of Olay complete or whatever. It doesn't matter as long as it's sunscreen. I'm telling you to, not one thing I'm saying is sexy or you want to be a good discus thrower. What did Coach Mon tell me the first day I got there? Throw the discus 4 days a week. lift weights 3 days a week for the next 8 years. That's how you get better. That's not, I mean, that doesn't make me leap up and, want to run through a wall, but it's true. And that's the hardest part of life is what's the truth will set you free, but it'll kick you in the ass first. Is that the bumper sticker? Yeah.
As you acknowledged, as you're in your late 60s, approaching your 70s and doing all these amazing things, from the amount of work you're still doing, the amount of people you're helping, the amount of communities you're in, how do you have, or what are your reflections and general recommendations for coaches, trainers, clinicians, the younger population of individuals entering their careers as you're going to the tail end of yours? What are some words of wisdom that you'd have for young professionals as they're just starting this journey and you're decades in?
First thing is, I would say sit up front and pay attention. You got to put you got to listen, and you got to take notes, and you got to. So when I go to workshops, I like sitting. Okay, we're going to perform better. I'll sit in the front row. Drives everybody I'm with crazy. After you're done speaking, Chris, and I will listen to you, Chris, because I get a lot out of the new people. I'll write down the 3 or 5 items that really resounded what you in real time. I'm writing them down, and I'll come back to them. And then that night, I'll have three workshops I went to. I'll have, say, 15 points. And then what I'll try to do is what connects these points? Like if I go to a sprint coach, the sprint coaches will sometimes talk about the QLs and how important they are for sprinting, because of when this glute drives, that bounces it up. Then the strongman will talk about the importance of, or Stu McGill, when you're doing the yoke carry, the QLs, steel strength. But all of a sudden I'm sitting there in my hotel room going, okay, remember QLs. Okay. Number 2, do your best to keep connecting things. Okay. In Genesis 1, the first 3 days are separation. The next 3 days are ornamentation. And one of the things I think people make a mistake is, and you see it very much in the kettlebell community, and you see it very much in the powerlifting community. And by God, I see it now in the Olympic lifting. Somebody was criticizing the way I teach the Olympic lifts. And it's like, but every throws coach I know really appreciates it, because I make it simple. And there's a good reason why Americans aren't very good at Olympic lifts anymore, is because we've made the sport so complex, no one wants to coach it. In the kettlebell community, there's every division. There's the GS, there's the hard style. There's those guys with a different set of initials with these guys. And then, of course, these experts, all around the globe that know everything, but they're never respected. There's certain, stop looking for differences. Look for connections. Look for connections. If you read 3 different powerlifting books, they're going to disagree on a lot of things. Now, personally, my favorite powerlifting coaches are Stefan Kort from Germany and Marty Gallagher, because each of them, it's progressive resistance exercise with an understanding that there's a time for this and a time for something else. Look for connections, number 2. Look for connections. And I already gave you the example from sitting up front. And so it's going to be I think it's going to be looking for connections on number 3 when I get there. The next thing is, it's been done before and it was done a lot better. So shut up. Well, there's this argument online about who invented complexes. I've got one of the first time I ever saw David Rieger, the great Soviet lifter, train, it was in a TV show. He was doing complexes well before they were invented by everybody else. The Japanese lifters in the 1960s, the Miyake brothers, I don't know if they did, but at the club they trained at, they would train people with complexes have been around. The Turkish get-up has been around, from my knowledge, at least 130 years, but it might be 2,000 and 300 years, So there's nothing new under the sun. Everything's been done before. I've got my Sears barbell training program, the first one I got, my brother got home from Vietnam. I also have Miles Callum's book right in here somewhere, the first real strength training book I ever read. Those programs were based on a barbell on the ground. And when I first went to Southwood Junior High, our programs were based on a barbell on the ground. I made the best program progress of my life when I went back to just a barbell on the ground. Now, obviously, it's great to have squat stands for doing, stuff, obviously. And it's great to have all the machines and the suspension trainers and the kettlebells and all this. One kettlebell, if all you had is a kettlebell and a desire, no one's going to stop you. If all you had was an adjustable barbell and a desire, nothing's going to stop you. Hills are free, sprint up hills. Everything is possible under the sun. You just you got to respect the tradition, and you don't have to respect me, but nobody does. But anybody who knows me has no respect for me. And I'm very proud of that, Chris. Thank you. But it's just, you got to respect the tradition and realize that it's been done before and it's been done better.
I think that's a good place to wrap up and stop. Oh. I could ask you endless questions.
Sure. Let's do it again.
Forever. Yeah. I would love to get you back on at some point, maybe for one of your upcoming books. It seems like there's no stopping. Do you have any desire to slow down the amount that you publish, the amount that you write, or do you just love the consistency of writing, of talking, and you see this going indefinitely?
Last week, I was on the ground with my granddaughter, Daisy, who's just mastering crawling, and they have a corgi named Gracie. And I was on the ground rolling around with Daisy and Gracie. And how long do I want to keep doing that? How long do I want to be part of my kids' and grandkids' lives and rolling around the floor? Yeah. To me, Chris, I really like what I do. I love it. I love it. I'm doing a workshop in Cornell in June, and I was talking to Ethan about it, and he gave me this topic, and I was at first like, and then I started working on it, and 5 minutes later, I was like, every day, I try to figure out, man, I read everything. I have. Somebody asked me a question the other day on my podcast about Markin Birkin's lean gains. Have I read about it? Yeah, I read it when it came out. And then I went to this long explanation of Greg O'Gallagher, and I didn't get into Rusty Moore. That's my mistake. But and how all these things change. And it was like, all of a sudden I realized while I'm talking, I realized, rein it in and answer the question. Don't give them a 3-hour history lesson on the question they didn't ask. I love it. I love it. The word passion comes from the root pasios. It means to suffer. I am willing to suffer for what I do here. Chris, it's funny. Not long ago, I was getting my doctor, Ross, who I taught in high school, said, how did you get that? I go, I don't know. I broke it. So that's messed up. 2 surgeries here, 1 surgery here, 1 surgery here, surgery here on my knee, both hips, umbilical hernia, my nose broken 7 times, 3 attempts to fix it. Oh yeah. Lori Wilson, she broke my heart. I'm willing to suffer for my sport. I am willing to wake up at 3 a.m. because I had this insight about 2 sets of 5 I'd never thought of before. And I'll wake up and write it down so I don't forget it in the morning. I love this stuff. And why would you ever want to walk away from what you're passionate about? I am passionate about my babies. I'm passionate about some of my friends, not all of them. And you know who you are, but that was a joke. Okay. But as long as I'm passionate, I'm stick with it.
Well, that's a lucky place to be for someone that's still so excited about what they teach and their career. I know a lot of people that are my age and don't like what they do. And I know people that are in their 60s, 70s that are stoked to be retired. And so you're in a rare population of people that still love what they do.
Going to work every day to a job you hate. Earl Nightingale, Joseph Campbell talks about it, about what a dead life that would be. I was lucky, the word is follow your bliss. It's not exactly the best way to translate it, but, find those things in life that make you want to pop out of bed in the morning. And, last Saturday, I drove all the way up to Utah State University, to watch some throwers throw, and drove back. My whole Saturday was that. But I love it. And they don't realize what a gift they have. Okay, enough. Yeah.
All right, Dan, I appreciate you coming on. We'll definitely have you on in the future. Yeah. Thank you for all the work you've done, the writing you've done. You're a shining light in the chaos that is all the other information that's out there. We'll call it there. Thanks, Dan.